Welcome everyone to the game between Magnus Carlsen and Arjun Erigaisi. And this is their second encounter where Arjun is in a must-win game. Not at all when you're facing the GOAT of chess, but Arjun has beaten Magnus in the past, and this one is important because if he manages to beat Magnus, then he qualifies to fight for the third place battle on the final day. Magnus has a 1-0 lead with his victory with the white pieces. Let's have a look at this position. We have a rook, knight, bishop, so same as traditional chess. King is also on its initial square. Then we have knight, queen, rook and bishop, a handshake, and off we go. Arjun plays g3, opening up the bishop on the long diagonal. g5 by Magnus, e4 played here by Arjun. Pawn comes up to c5. So Magnus creating these two pawns that control the dark squares, and Arjun piece falls off. Knight to e3 played, and knight comes out in the center with c6. Arjun brings a knight in and is threatening mate in 1 immediately. Wow. And Magnus quietly and calmly brings his knight out. The other knight comes to a3, threatening again knight b5. Magnus plays g4, a very risky move, but tries to limit the pawns here. c3 by Arjun. Pawn comes up to d6. And Magnus seems to be confident here, although Arjun has actually played it very interestingly and also seems to be doing quite well. Knight b5 played, threatening a check here to win the rook. King goes to d8, stopping the knight from coming here, and pawn to d3, opening up the bishop. Black now plays the knight to g5. The idea is to look at these two squares, and now pawn to h4. Very risky play by Arjun. Of course, en passant, he's very happy because he gets f4, but the knight can jump into h3, which Magnus does. Such a dangerous move for Magnus because his knight is out of the game. The rook comes up and is blocking the bishop. So very weird stuff happening here. However, this is a mistake. Now rook h2, and actually Arjun has excellent chances once again, because then he can seriously think about pushing pawn to f4 and stuff like that. There's pressure here. The knight may be a bit offside. Bishop comes to d7, and now d4 is the best move. The queen will defend. Oh, he finds it. Arjun getting seriously better here. And Magnus definitely under pressure. Pawn takes. He takes back with the pawn. Knight comes back to c6. Maybe here Arjun could have taken back with the knight and his position was better. But he takes here. Knight goes to c6. Now bishop e3. Plays it, defends the pawn. And Magnus gets rook to c8. f4 played. Wow. The thing here is now Magnus does en passant. And Arjun says, thank you so much for the two pieces, Magnus. Takes. Queen takes. The position looks pretty even here. However, you will notice that the queen is a bit offside. This bishop is a bit offside. If black is able to get some things rolling, like you can see pushing one knight away, now pushing the other knight away, you have to let this knight go. Like for example, rook d1, a b5 and bishop f3. White seems to have decent play, but Arjun clings on to material with knight a3, and this is not good, because now after bishop takes d4, black is in the driver's seat. Magnus chops it off. Bishop takes d4. If you take here, I have knight takes d4. So goes bishop g5 check, rook takes g5. Insane move. Hg, and what is the Magnus's idea? Why did he give up so much material? He's pieced down because he wants to show that all his pieces are in play, while white's pieces are just loitering around on the other side of the board. Knight e5, another powerful move, defending the pawn on f3. Rook d1 played, And now queen to g5, an amazing move. If you take here, it's a check. Oh my goodness, what a game by Magnus. Queen h4, threatening a queen trade. I mean, queen has to be traded. Bishop c3, bc3, and now rook takes. Magnus just piece down, but understanding that his position is just unassailable here. Mainly his knight is so well positioned. Okay, there is pressure on the d6 pawn, but first comes a check. King goes back to f1. And now he goes rook e2, another brilliant move. Threatening knight h2 check. This is hanging. Bishop takes pawn. He gives a check and actually wins the piece. Arjun gets one pawn back, but now he's 2 pawns down. King goes to c7. And I think Magnus is just completely crushing this. I would call this one of the most beautiful games played in freestyle chess, because he managed to actually create some insane patterns here in the game. Rook h3. Magnus basically understanding that the position of the piece is very important, not just the material. And takes another pawn. Third pawn bites the dust. Arjun goes king g3. And now the only move, counter-attacking the knight on b1. Rook goes to c2. Magnus calmly moves his king away. The knight moves in. And now a check. King comes up. And Magnus pushes the pawn to b5. Rook check. King e7. Well, Arjun can safely resign here, but he's just playing out of inertia. The king goes to f6. Maybe he's threatening e5 check here. Magnus goes knight e5, centralizing the knight, threatening a check here, and Arjun resigns. Magnus Carlsen wins. A wonderful game played by Magnus. Arjun tried his best to complicate matters, matching move for move in the first few moves, but then once Magnus got his pieces in the best place, it was impossible for Arjun. And also Magnus's deep positional understanding, where he made certain moves without taking any time on the clock. How does he manage to do that? That just goes to show he understands freestyle chess and chess in general very, very deeply. And once again, we see Arjun's immense will to learn there as he talks to Magnus after the game.